Man, for some reason it feels like it's been a while, but here we are back with another weekly vendor reset video for the Division. I've been playing a lot of Wildlands, really enjoying it, playing it with my friends. Still need to do a lot of stuff in it. We kind of goof off a bit and don't really get around to doing the main missions and all that kind of stuff. Been doing a lot of survival, and I actually started doing some Last Stand again, so you'll probably see some more videos of that stuff coming up. I know I haven't really been doing anything during the week other than these, but I do really plan on doing it. I've just been really busy during the week, and I have some other plans coming up next week also, but I do plan on getting the videos up. So, without further ado, let's start off here in the Base of Operations Hub at the Special Equipment Vendor for Phoenix credits. Alright, so obviously, just like every other week, we got our exotic weapons here in the Special Equipment Vendor here, and we have first off the Cassidy, which has Predatory and Sustained, the Pecan with Accurate and Prepared, the Liberator with Focused and Competent, and it also has Intense. I forgot that this one actually has 3 talents other than its combo one there. I'm kind of upset now because I didn't end up getting the one last week and actually had some pretty good rolls on it. I think it was Responsive, Prepared, and Adept. Obviously critical hit chance with assault rifles wasn't all that great, but either way still pretty good. Centurion with Skilled, and the Historian here with Swift and Skilled. Once again, going to skip the Historian again this week for me personally, at least. Not too great of talents on it. Now, I would not suggest this one specifically to anybody, but I have actually been doing some tests with the UMP, the variant with 30 mag and 600 RPM. It has very high base damage, and I ended up getting one with decent rolls on it. I think right now I have Responsive, Brutal, and Deadly on it. Obviously, I would rather have something over Brutal, something like Competent in the third slot maybe, but nonetheless, it was still pretty good. It hits very hard. The only issue with it is its accuracy. Obviously, all SMGs have pretty low accuracy, but this one, I feel like I wasn't hitting enough, and obviously the lower rate of fire. So I think the AUG is probably still going to be the top gun in SMGs right now. Alright, so we are now going to scroll through the gear set items. Alright, so just like last week, still in the Special Equipment Vendor for Phoenix credits, we have another extended magazine here. This one not as great as last week's, but still pretty much around the same stats. Got 109% magazine size, 5% reload speed, and 4.7% rate of fire. On top of that, we also have an Omega rifle suppressor here with 17.5% headshot damage, 4% critical hit damage, and 3% critical hit chance. This is probably the best suppressor to have on your assault rifles and snipers, with that addition of the headshot damage and obviously having critical hit damage and chance on it is always nice no matter what weapon you're using. Also in the same vendor here, we have a VX1 scope 12 times zoom with 16.5% headshot damage, 3% critical hit chance, and 5% optimal range. This is good for snipers. You can also use this on your assault rifles. I also use one of these kind of scopes on my assault rifles. Instead of the optimal range, you would have wanted something like critical hit damage or something like that, but nonetheless, if you don't have a nice sniper scope, then this is definitely a decent pickup. Alright, now moving on over to the Special Blueprints vendor for Phoenix credits. We first start off here with an ACR. The base damage for it is about the same as rolling for any lightweight M4 or LVOA or the police M4. The RPM on the ACRs are lower than those, but it does actually have higher rate of fire than most other assault rifles like the P416, only by 10, but nonetheless, the ACR is actually quite the stable assault rifle. So if anyone's kind of looking around, not necessarily playing too much of PvP, but more PvE style and trying to just keep their accuracy straight and going for straight damage and not necessarily having to compensate for their aim too much, especially on console, then the ACR is not a bad weapon to pick. Also this week we have the Pro Red Dot Sight Blueprint, which I will actually be picking up due to the fact that I need some more SMG scopes to have, and that one with the main attribute of critical hit damage, that is the kind of scope you're going to want on your SMGs. Alright, still in the base of operations, moving over to the Dark Zone gear vendor, we go down here to find out that we have a prototype performance mod here with 2% pulse critical hit chance, which I believe is the highest you can get as a performance mod. I personally don't use these anymore. I really roll around the first aid self-heal due to the fact that I play solo most of the time, and I want to keep myself alive as much as possible. But either way, if you're looking for that increase of critical hit chance and you use pulse, then definitely grab this. Alright, moving up to the front of the base of operations here with the weapons vendor, we scroll down to find a military M60 here. Personally, I used to use LMGs a bit in 1.4. I stopped using them in 1.5 after assault rifles were just gods. This one here has 11% damage targets out of cover. It's a little low. I think 14% is the highest. 19.8 thousand base damage, which is like, I believe this is like the strongest LMG there is. It's got destructive, sustained, and accurate, so you could roll away accurate for something like brutal or ferocious. Actually would be perfect due to the fact that it's in the third slot and it has a high electronics requirement. So this is not a bad LMG. LMGs primarily, you really won't see anybody using them in PvP, but PvE they are still going to be pretty effective with that high magazine size. I actually used to roll meticulous on them. Obviously they have a lot of bullets and all, but having to reload, the reload speed and these things is just atrocious. So having that is not a bad talent to have if you could get it. But either way, still a pretty good pickup if you are looking for some PvE high damage weapons. Alright, next up we move over to the gear vendor in the base of operations. We scroll down to find another prototype performance mod with 3.5% turret damage. I believe that can go up to 4%, so this is not the highest you can get, but for base credits, I mean, I'm sure most people that still play, you get a bunch of rewards from both Last Stand and Survival and all that kind of stuff that you're just selling and selling, or maybe dismantling. But if you sell your stuff like I do, you got plenty of money. If you're looking for some turret damage, if you use that skill, then definitely grab some of these. Alright, moving on down to Camp Hudson, the hub where you originally start the game at the gear vendor here. We have a pretty good operator holster here. I usually wouldn't point out high-end holsters just because most of the time if you're running a gear set build, you're probably going to have a gear set holster just because the talents on high-end ones aren't very good. But this one here, I noticed that all three of the skill rolls are very high. 1249 firearms, 1258 stamina, 1239 electronics. A lot of the times it's pretty freaking rare to find a holster that has all of them even above 1200, never mind close to the cap even. But this one's got steadfast as its talent. Health regeneration kicks in twice as fast while in cover, which still is a pretty decent, it's a helpful talent, but there are probably some better ones, especially even the exotic holster there. But it also has major attribute of 6% skill haste, which you could roll away for. I'm pretty sure you can get critical hit chance. Correct me if I'm wrong, honestly, I feel like I am. But reload speed right now is one of the roles, and also health. So those are definitely, for me personally, those are the top two roles to get there. Personally, I would rather have the reload speed, but you could probably roll that away, seeing as how the talents or the skills on them are very high. So pretty good holster pickup if you need one. We also scroll down here to find a prototype electronics mod with 241 electronics, a little on the median side of it, not really high, not very low either though, with 3134 health on it. I still personally prefer to roll health on my mods. You could roll something like exotic damage resilience or skill haste, stuff like that, or I think you can get critical hit chance on there too, maybe. I could be wrong. But health is definitely my preferred stat to have there. Alright, next up here we are at the last call Safehouse. Here we have a suppressor, the Tyrant suppressor, with 7% critical hit chance, 4% critical hit damage, and 5.5% headshot damage. Those are the 3 damage stats you can get on a suppressor, and they are the top 3 stats you want to try and get. This one would be used on SMGs or pistols. Personally, I think it's better to have the critical hit damage suppressor, or I believe it's a muzzle brake for SMGs. But if you do not have one like me, I don't have a lot of them. I think I only had a couple, and I wanted to have one on all my SMGs that I use. So right now on my AUG, I think I have a critical hit chance one, like the Tyrant suppressor here. So definitely a decent pickup. I'm probably actually going to grab one myself due to the fact that, like I said, I don't have a lot of suppressors or muzzles for SMGs. So alright, here is probably the biggest one, at least so far this week. At the Ward Safehouse, we have the prototype performance mod here for first aid self-heal at its max capacity of 6%, and I actually currently only have, I think, 1 or 2 of them at 6%, and then the rest of them are either 5 or 5.5. So this is going to finally max that out for me at 24%. Increase first aid self-heal, which is awesome. Definitely grab these, even if you don't use these mods in your slots, or if you don't use first aid, which is I don't know anyone who doesn't use first aid, but definitely grab these either way. Only 168,000 credits each. I'm gonna grab a couple of them myself. All right, moving on to our final safe house, the Crypt here. This one's actually got a couple of decent drops, starting off with an enhanced AUG A3P, 19.5% critical hit chance, 19.1 thousand base damage, which currently is like the highest base damage I've seen on an AUG so far from me. It's got Determined, Vicious, and Fierce, so obviously you want critical hit chance with your SMGs, but you do not need to stack it all that much due to the fact that the critical hit chance already given on the weapon's like base stat that comes with it. You don't really need to stack it all that much, so the use of Vicious and Fierce, especially together, is not really all that necessary, but having it is not necessarily a bad idea. I believe the cap for critical hit chance is 60%. With Pulse, obviously that's going to be pretty damn easy to reach, especially if you have critical hit chance every here and there on your attachments on the weapon itself. But this is still definitely a good pickup. I'm probably going to grab it myself and try it out at least. You could roll away Determined for Deadly or Responsive. I believe Deadly would probably get your get the best bang out of the buck, even though Responsive when you're using SMG is probably going to be active at all times. But Deadly giving that 15% increased damage to the critical hits is definitely a big boost of damage. Definitely grab this one if you need one. I'm going to grab one, like I said. I'm going to try it out and compare it to the one I'm using right now, which has lower base damage, gotten Forgiving and Responsive and Deadly, which I think is a better combo, obviously, for talents. But we'll try it out and check it out. Obviously, the 19.5% critical hit chance is a little low on critical hit chance. I think you can get it up to 23%. But when you're playing in Last Stand, that gets scaled up to its max anyway, so not a big deal. And we also scroll down here to another Tyrant Suppressor, with this one having 7.5% critical hit chance, 5.5% headshot damage, and 4% critical hit damage. Alright, now moving on to the Dark Zone checkpoints here at the East 53rd Street Dark Zone checkpoint. We have a prototype stamina mod with 252 stamina and 3,320 skill power. So if there's anyone who thinks their first aid or whatever skill, you know, is kind of lacking on its power, then you can get this along with being able to have that increased toughness from the stamina. Alright, next up here at the East 40th Street Dark Zone checkpoint, we have a prototype stamina mod here with 245 stamina and 2,903 health. Like I said, I like to have health on all my mods. Personally, that's my preference, and obviously having on top of stamina, your toughness is going to be raised quite a bit. Alright, here now at the West 46th Street Dark Zone checkpoint, we have a classic M1A here, which is pretty nicely rolled. 168% headshot damage, 55.1 thousand base damage. It's got Prepared, which is awesome for snipers. Deadly, which you wouldn't necessarily expect, but I'm going to make a point. And Swift, which you could roll away for something else like Destructive maybe. But the reason why I'm pointing this one out, that's nice to have the Deadly instead of maybe Brutal or something like that, is the fact that if you were rolling the gear set build there that makes all your sniper shots 100% criticals, obviously having Deadly is going to increase that damage instead of the headshots, because that basically negates all headshot damage when you have that gear set. And like I said, roll away Swift or something like Destructive or even Ferocious if you want, due to the fact that it's in the third slot. And you could have yourself a pretty decent semi-automatic sniper to roll with that build. Personally, I would suggest trying to get an SVD with same stats. Obviously, like I said, no headshot damage, so you could ignore that stat on it altogether. But an SVD, the reason I would say that is because the recoil on it is very low. I think it's the lowest for really any semi-automatic sniper out there, which allows you to actually take advantage of its RPM and put a lot more shots into people at a higher rate. Alright, we are now here at the West 53rd Street Dark Zone checkpoint, where we have a couple of things I'd like to point out. For starters, we have a prototype firearms mod here with 265 firearms and 3,118 skill power. I'm actually going to grab a couple of these myself because I want to roll more firearms mods on my stuff, but I did not have very high firearms mods. Some of them with health, which, like I said, I prefer that, but I do have an electronics mod on right now that I would be replacing with a firearms mod. I have the electronics mod to compensate for the loss of, or the fact that I don't really stack skill power a lot, and I could get my first aid to heal a bit more. So this is a very good mod. It has high firearms, 265 is very high, and then 3,118 skill power to increase your skill performance by at least a little bit. And also in the same vendor here, we have a VX1 scope 12 times zoom with 18% headshot damage, which I think is the highest, 2.5% critical hit chance, and 2% accuracy. The accuracy is going to help at least a smidgen a bit if you're using snipers or even assault rifles, to reduce that spread of the bullet spread on assault rifles, and obviously the snipers, after each shot it'll focus and center itself out more rapidly. That's what the accuracy has an effect on it. Obviously, having critical hit chance is nice on anything, and the headshot damage, like I said, is the highest that you can get on the scope. Alright, moving up to the DZ09 East 64th Street Dark Zone checkpoint. Here we have a couple of gear mods, which I will show both. We got a prototype stamina mod with 241 stamina, a little on the low side. 2886 skill power, also on the low side, so not the best rolls, but still not a bad pickup if you are looking for those two rolls. We also have a prototype performance mod here with 6% first aid ally heal, 6% being the highest. So if you're looking to heal your teammates up and be a support build in PvE, PvP, anything last stand, whatever it is, definitely a good mod to pick up. Alright, still up in DZ09 here at the East 61st Street Dark Zone checkpoint. We have some more mods here, these ones being for the weapons. We've got an extended magazine here with 110% magazine size, 4.5% reload speed, and 3% critical hit chance. Nice rolls. Obviously, instead of the reload speed, you want to try and get rate of fire on your magazine size, or on your extended mag. But either way, still a pretty good one. We also have an Omega rifle suppressor here with 17.5% headshot damage, 2% accuracy, and 3% critical hit chance. And we also have another thing to point out is a small RDS scope with 13% stability, 3% critical hit chance, and 2% accuracy. Obviously, when you're running really any weapon, you want to try and either get for SMGs the critical hit damage or critical hit chance as the main stat. And on assault rifles, you want to try and get the headshot damage as the main stat. But if you are having any trouble controlling your weapon, you want to step some more stability. Not a bad pickup. Alright, we are now at Park Ave, which is in DZ08, the southernmost part of it, checkpoint here for the Dark Zone. And we have the weapons vendor, really the only thing here that stands out, which is actually a pretty good, nicely rolled AK here. We've got 19% enemy armor damage on the lower side, but in last stand, that's not going to matter. 24.4 thousand base damage, probably the highest base damage you can get on fully automatic assault rifles, and it also has responsive, determined, and competent. Competent is actually quite a good skill. I was trying to get it on a lightweight M4 roll, which I got the blueprint from last week. If you guys missed that, I really feel bad because it is probably one of the best blueprints you're going to find, and I have yet to see anything like that in the vendor there. But competent being in the third slot, perfect due to the fact that it has a high electronic roll. You could roll away determined for brutal or destructive if you're doing PvE, but personally I would suggest brutal for assault rifles. And it also has responsive, which is great because most of the time in PvP, gunfights are going to be happening in close quarters, and even PvE, assault rifles are kind of, especially the AK itself, is actually kind of hard to keep stable. And anything over 10 meters, or if you're going for prepared or anything like that, don't even give it a chance. 30 meters is way too long. Alright, now heading on into the Dark Zone itself here in DZ08 at the safe room at the special vendor here. We have some gear set pieces I am going to scroll through now. Alright, now in the DZ09 safe room upstairs at the special vendor here, we have some more gear set pieces I will scroll through now. Alright, and in DZ06 at the safe room, due to request of another viewer, I will show off the gear sets here. Alright, well that'll do it for this week, guys. Really appreciate all the feedback and views and everything I've been getting lately, and I really appreciate you guys commenting and letting me know the things that you like to see, that you want to see. Anything I can help you guys with, just let me know in the comments. Anything you want me to make a video for, maybe a tutorial of some sort that some people might not have done a good job of making in the past. I do still plan on doing a survival guide. I know it's late and it's a full DLC and some time flown by to be doing it, but I really want to do a really detailed one, and that way you guys can understand exactly the reasoning why I do certain things in runs, situations where you might want to do certain things and take certain actions, maybe avoid somebody, and then sometimes you want to take advantage to get a flank on somebody, that way you can try and kill them easier. But yeah, I really want to do that, and like I said, appreciate you guys watching. I went to not all of the safe rooms in the Dark Zone, but this one I did the extra one in DZ06 due to the fact that somebody requested it last week. So yeah, if you guys really appreciate it, leave a like the video, comment down below. Like I said, any feedback is always appreciated, and subscribe for the next week and more videos to come. I really want to expand out of out of just the division. But for now, I'm still enjoying it, so I'll definitely keep doing what I'm doing. So appreciate you guys watching.